they can always get compensated by the federal government for the even if they lose the case. Like, wow, I should specialize in that. Becoming, if I was,
That really opens up the list of clients, doesn't it?
and
I
a
mean,
lot of people get vaccines, huh?
there's no limitation almost if they know they're going to get paid.
Right,
That's
and then
that's
the other, yeah, but with the other thing being, it's a 3 year limit, so you've got to talk to parents or people who are moving into the country or for whatever reasons are getting vaccines. I don't think tetanus a vac is that a vaccine? I guess it is, isn't it? Like
sure.
rabies and tetanus, those are vaccines, right?
I think so.
Okay. So I think tetanus people get their whole life, something like every 7 years, or they can. But maybe it's not that dangerous. I don't know. In fact, I don't think that was on the list of like the 14 things that they give awards for. Um, anyway, so this is just the in the moment process for me. The whole thing about the vaccines is partly trivial. The real thing is that frustration and irritability go together, and the inflammation response of uh, vaccines or any number of dietary factors, like all sorts of things, can spark neurological inflammation or nerve tissue inflammation. And I think that for me, one of the most notable things that's happened in the last year or two is me, well, especially in the last several months, um, with my wife being successful in her um, revenue production of her work. It's taken a number of pressures off me, which were present previously much more heavily, on me, and um, grounding, the use of the electrons from the Earth to ground. I really think that's massively reduced my own irritability and inflammation, and probably hers too. But I've done it a lot more than she has. Um,
So
so
you would
go,
say that beer is not on your list?
beer.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Uh, well, we can go with that as an aside. I think it's actually at the same time as I know you might offer it as a throwaway comment that we just dropped. The reality is people drink alcohol because it will help them to relax. We've talked about this at least in passing many times. You know,
Right.
does it help somebody who's irritable to be less irritable? Generally, yes. And part of that is through what would otherwise be called numbing, but so be it. Things that irritate you intensely irritate you less when you're inebriated. Is that true? Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you're not even really conscious.
I'm not
You,
worried
you just
about that red light. It's just, come on. There's no traffic around. Anyway, go ahead. What?
I was just going
It's
to say,
just a
right?
stop sign. What? Huh? Go ahead.
Yes. The more unconscious we become, the less our triggers can trigger us. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also like, why do people have 2 drink minimums at comedy shows? Because it loosens them up. It makes it more likely that they're gonna laugh. Um, that's it. It's a real thing, and there's nothing shocking about it, or I don't know. To me, there's nothing shocking about it. So to reduce irritability in the short run, could I have a drink? Yeah. And we also know that people who get drunk to a certain point may, or in a social setting, may end up in fights. The people, they're angry drunk. You know, uh, people who normally they repress their anger, and they're actually maybe getting more irritable, or they're more easily irritated and more they are more eruptive, whatever. They're more dramatic, they're more extreme in their response when they do get irritated. So whatever. I'm not saying it's a 100% one way or the other. But irritability, do you want to comment on irritability as it relates to frustration or anything else?
Well, no, but just based on what you just said, there are different stages. In other words, if I was to have a couple drinks, it certainly can be numbing. But at the same time, if you have too many drinks, then some of your repressed emotion can't come out. When you're even if you're very good at repressing it, once you've gone to a certain point, you don't have the ability to do that anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there are different stages, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, it undermines habitual coping mechanisms to get really drunk. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm
very familiar with that.
What about irritability?
I guess I'm not very perceptive of my own irritability.
Really?
Irritability.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Frustration, because I see irritability as more of a physical thing. I mean, I'm thinking more frustration is more of a mental thing. You know, so I'm certainly very conscious of my frustration at a mental level. But irritability, yeah, I guess sometimes I get physically, irritable. But I don't necessarily feel that as often as I feel frustrated.
Well,
I don't. Go ahead.
Well, I can connect them at the term grumpy. So if somebody wakes me up, or if I'm really tired, not only can I get really frustrated if I'm trying to do something on the computer or whatever, I'm trying to, do something and I'm tired. It's going to slow me down. I'm going to be less effective, less perceptive, more likely to be frustrated, and I'm also more irritable. So it's basically, as I've mentioned before, an exhaustion state. Irritability is related to exhaustion. I've had it up to here with you kids, right?
Right. So then, basically, we can be so habitually frustrated that it can turn into irritability. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
I mean,
no, not really. That's not what I was saying. I mean, as it relates to being tired, or how are you when somebody wakes you up in the morning? Are you one of those people who needs coffee or something like that?
No.
But you know people like that, or not really?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess Amy can be irritable if I do anything, to wake her up, or, yeah, she can be pretty irritable at times.
What if you do something to keep her from falling asleep?
That too, yes.
Because I think that could be more annoying to me. If somebody wakes me up early, I guess historically, when I've been woke up early, it's probably been for pretty good reasons. But if somebody's keeping me awake,
you mean breakfast in bed, right?
Special services. I don't think I've even explained the term special services to you, but I bet you can imagine what I might mean by that.
I'm sure I can.
So that reminds me of a story. One time I woke, and can I tell that story? I guess this, like I said, I'm recording. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I have woke up where this is a little bit of a funny story. I can say it very and anonymously. I have woke up and had another person. I have been woke up by another person servicing me. So I'll just say it that way.
Wow, you at the gas station?
No, I don't. No.
Oh wait, I think I know what you mean then. Yeah.
Yeah, there was certain kind of dreams. You've heard of the moist dreams. Well, this was not a dream. If I had been dreaming prior to being woke up, so be it. But this was an actual thing. I woke up to. I mean, that's such a weird thing too. I'm like, what went through the other person's mind? I assume they knew I was asleep. Like, right? I don't know, but I do recall I didn't ask them about it. I simply went along with it, more or less. That's my recollection. Um, and to this day, I never really asked them what was going on with that, but probably won't. Anyway, so
They were probably just, honestly, if I could guess,
yeah,
maybe they were trying to get rid of their own irritability.
there you go. There you go. They were like, this guy, he's irritating me whenever he's awake, except when he's getting service. So I'm going to go ahead and service him while I just leave, wake him up. While, yeah. See, very good coping mechanism there.
Makes perfect sense.
All right. Well, and I'll make this note, and maybe we'll conclude here soon. I don't know. It's been over an hour, but I have mentioned that one of the most prominent things to frustrate in the masses, in the youth, whatever, is sexuality. So to frustrate the sexuality of teenagers or whatever, that's just like super normal in so many cultures. That's what happens, is that even to call people selfish or whatever, that's a normal thing that people get like conditioned with. Your interests, your desires are dangerous, and certainly they may be, right? Curiosity can get you bit by a poisonous snake or whatever. So there's a stage of development at which it is appropriate to have, some expert with you whenever you blank, whenever you explore such and such of a topic or a situation.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say when you talk about sexuality, how that can lead to a lot of frustration, certainly for youth and teens, and certainly going further into adulthood. I think part of that has to do with, it's not really in our innate nature to be monogamous. I mean, that really isn't. That's kind of like become like a spiritual or religious thing, to where like we should all like find one person and settle down. But it really, if you take out the human imagination and all the different writings throughout the years, maybe human beings aren't necessarily built to be with one person. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's possible.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but my equipment only fit one person in my entire life. So it's my soulmate. Or my whole mate. Was it my whole mate or my soulmate? I just made up a whole new phrase. What?
You got all these different songs and movies and writings, and especially like guilt and shame, written writings where they're all talking about like you should just find one person, settle down, be with this person. Love, that's what love is. Love is just like marriage and falling in love, but maybe there's more to sexuality than that, though. You know what I mean? And people might not explore it very much because they're at a young age they learn to repress it.
I don't have any basic problem with monogamy as such. My concern would be, is somebody sexually fulfilled? And if they are through monogamy, then that's notable. And if they are not, whether it's through monogamy or any other practice or whatever, then this idea of fulfillment too, it's like it is a tricky thing. Lately I've listened to some audios where the idea was presented that desire, when pursued or when what you call entertained, tends to grow, and so we should restrict it. We shouldn't we should either restrict it or restrict our pursuit of desire, or actually abstain from pursuing desire, and like that spiritual denial kind of deny all my senses, deny all my desires, that kind of orientation, which can certainly, it's simple, it has a certain conceptual appeal to some people. It has to me at various times, where this idea of I'm going to be a perfect human, and that means I can't be disrupted by all these, chaotic impulses and unpredictable things, powerful things. But Go ahead.
Yes, I mean, thank you for expounding on what I was saying. But yeah, you hit all the nails right on the head. I guess that's what I was speaking to. That obviously there's nothing fundamentally wrong about monogamy. But right, but if we're led to believe that that's where we're supposed to be, and we're not fulfilled,
Right.
that can affect a lot of people's lives. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it sets up a pressure of like you should be monogamous, and if you're happy, cool. But if you're not happy, you still should be monogamous. And that isn't necessarily bad, from a cultural perspective, but from a personal perspective, I would prefer to be happy than monogamous, even if that meant being single. Oh my God, what if I was single? What if I didn't have sex with another person for, you know, 2 years or 9 years? Well, that happened early in my life, if I'm not mistaken, and I survived. All right. Um, but anyway, so the idea that sexuality is essential, or that sexual activity is essential, I don't think of that as realistic. I think that sexual frustration can be really um, you know troubling, and the issue would be if somebody is stimulated sexually, like they're exposed to people, experiences, sounds, smells, sights, all the kinds of things that might be sexually stimulating. And with all that stimulation, they have no release of that, or no whatever, no activation. I'm not sure what word to use here, but no fulfillment. So they have all this arousal, but no fulfillment. That's frustrating. And it's not that they shouldn't be frustrated. It's not that they shouldn't be stimulated. It's not that they should, climax every time they're stimulated. Like, that's stupid. I don't climax every time I'm stimulated any. Are you serious? No. I would never get anything done. But
You'd be an SA or something in that case. Yeah.
what?
You'd be an SA. I said if that was the case.
An SA?
Yeah.
What's that?
Sexaholics Anonymous.
Oh, okay. I got it. All right.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, it's frequent that this is kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if my wife will like me saying this, but it's not that big a deal to me, at least. I don't think it's that big a deal. So a lot of times she'll come home from work, typically, or wherever she's been, but often work, and I'll kiss her, and we'll kiss for like 6 seconds or 13 seconds, and she'll be like, "Oh, that's a really long kiss." I'm like, "Well, I kiss her a lot that long. To me, like, it's not that long. If we kiss for 20 seconds, is that super long? I don't know, is it? I guess anything after that, that little quick peck, okay, now we're done. I guess anything after that is now we're kissing. I didn't just kiss you, now we are kissing. And, yeah, like 6 seconds of kissing, is that enough to create a physical response of a certain kind in me? Maybe. So, with that note, no, every time I have some, arousal, I don't, act on it. But it's actually also been interesting to to explore teasing, and to be married and explore like teasing sexually, like to kiss for 15 seconds and then stop, and then 10 seconds later kiss again. Like, I'll do that. And I don't know that I've ever been so playful with my sexuality as I have been since I got married, which is, possibly correlated, not necessarily, but quite possibly correlated. It kind of makes sense. I'm more comfortable in the relationship, given that there's a marriage there, or I'm more comfortable in the relationship, and that's why we got married. However you want to frame it out. there's more comfort for me, including as it relates to sexual exploration, than maybe than ever before. Definitely some things I'm like, as far as being playful, I think that's the thing I will focus on for now, because I have to think about it. I don't know, what does it mean to be sexually adventurous or whatever? I don't even care. But to be sexually playful, that's interesting to me. Or just to be playful in general, I guess. But including in sexuality and in my marriage is really, I think, the most playful I've been. If I, to the best of my recollection, from one night stands to other relationships, I don't think I've ever been as playful. I mean, one of the things about one of the things that gets in the way of playfulness in general would be anxiety of, am I going to mess things up? Am I going to ruin the relationship if I try and experiment and it doesn't really, it's like I try something and say, do you like that? And somebody else says, no, not really. Well, if I'm always trying to prove myself, then I'm not being playful. Go ahead.
So we can say that when we find our soulmate, that we have a certain level of comfort, and that might even lead to sexual experimentation and or marriage. So, it could go. Is that what you're trying to get to?
Well, I am saying that it could, it doesn't really matter what the sequence is. If it's there, then it's, notable and, to me, valuable.
Yeah.
It's distinctive. It's not necessarily like, wow, this has, now altered fundamentally my entire experience of life or something like that. But it's even a relief, even a like, gosh, it's nice to not be as uptight, So I could imagine that celibacy or abstinence, that could be also, there's just playfulness, there's relaxation. But if there's like that celibacy where I shouldn't ever get aroused, and nobody else should ever get aroused, and we should never, ever, ever, ever act on any arousal. That's got to be a physical tension, corresponding to that kind of a conceptual prohibition. It's got to restrict me as an organism if I'm trying to avoid, any situation where I or somebody else is stimulated in that way. And it reminds me of the subject of women and apparel or attire and like revealing attire. And for men, this isn't much of an issue, generally speaking, but I am aware, and I don't have like a teenage daughter, but anybody who has a teenage daughter, like a guy who has a teenage daughter, I wouldn't be surprised if, guys who have teenage daughters going through puberty, in many cases, have a revolution in regard to their comfort and their attentiveness to like modest clothing. They may be really like, oh boy, I want to be a liberated, free-thinking guy, but I don't want you going out in that. You can't go to school in that. Is that a school? The school allow that? I'm going to call the school and ask them to change their policy because I don't want to, you get where I'm heading there?
Yeah, your interest would shift with life circumstances.
Yeah,
sure.
It can dramatically shift where like that dad mode is, whoa. We got a whole new situation here. Makeup? What? Or, again, the clothing thing is really, a big issue. What is it? Yoga pants? You know what I'm talking about? The really tight, I don't know.
Yeah. In fact, there was a I don't know if it was a senator or somebody in Utah. I don't know if I remember it was a senator who it was.
Yeah.
Someone was trying to pass legislation to ban yoga pants. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think so. And was it just to ban them in schools or to ban them in public settings or what?
I think he wanted to ban them completely, like in that region. It was in Utah, but I don't remember who exactly the politician was. But
might have been
but
Hatch. I don't know. Hatch is one of the guys in Utah. Anyway, doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Well, no, but just to say that, I mean, yeah, just 5 years before a guy has a daughter, he might enjoy certain.
Right. I love yoga pants. And then his daughter turns 14 and he's like, you know what? You can't wear those. No. You can go to yoga, but you can't wear those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can only wear yoga pants in a dark room. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, there's some really tight, form-fitting stuff, and I think about dresses and skirts. So I guess this is a little bit of an odd subject, but whatever, who cares? So if you think of an average adult female, say teenage years, healthy, I'll add that, and viewed from the rear, the way that a skirt or a dress works is to kind of like obscure the curves, like most of them. You may still, if it's tight, you may still see the hips and that curve, but other than like really short skirts, you're covering the legs, you're covering the rear, behindle gluteal area, and I think that those curves of the butt, that's really an important area to cover. So with yoga pants and it's like, if people can wear a bikini in public, well, how can yoga pants be, worse than a bikini, right? That doesn't make sense to me. But at the same time, I'm not saying bikinis are appropriate in every setting. I saw a picture about a stripper showing a judge something about her underwear. Did you happen to see that on Facebook?
No, I did not.
Okay, I don't know if I'll get into the reference right now, but there was a picture of the stripper putting herself into a certain unusual posture to demonstrate to the judge, exactly what could and could not be seen by her being in that posture, wearing that particular item of clothing. And, it was like what's that called? I forget the term for it, but like an indecency law. So she was showing him, those items of clothing aren't indecent, and these were like, bikini bottoms or panties or something like that. She was showing him in a pretty creative posture. I'll just say it that way. But saying that it didn't violate the decency laws of that particular jurisdiction. So what was I saying? So skirts. So skirts and dresses, or like a long blouse or whatever, those kind of things that cover the butt of a woman, those are popular, like clothing items in some cultures and some places. And then you also have the revealing of that area, whether it's nudity or with form-fitting clothes, like even jeans, whatever. Like, you're aware that at certain places in the 1940s or whatever, at various times, a woman to wear slacks, okay. But slacks don't hug, they're not tight-fitting. But for a woman to wear tight jeans, or maybe Daisy Duke shorts, from the Dukes of Hazzard, those kind of tight, curvy clothes, that was really quite disruptive. I think I might even mention one time that there was a law in Florida that was passed because there were women in thong T-back bathing suits that were contributing to traffic wrecks by just being in public with that revealing clothing. Did you remember me ever mentioning that?
No, but that makes some sense though.
Yeah, they actually like passed a law. I believe this was in the 80s or something that prohibited those people from being like roadside vendors in that attire. It's like, you know, you have the girls in the bikinis for the car wash. They're waving the signs, "Hey, come get a car wash." But at some point, as as bathing suits got smaller and smaller, they did change the law about it. And it makes sense. So people may complain about breastfeeding in public, or they may complain about laws that prohibit breastfeeding in public. But it makes sense that people would complain, that they would be frustrated, that they would be concerned. They want, I want other people to stop having the interests and responses they have. I want them to just, I want them to be penalized with criminal penalties, if they wear those kind of clothes, or if they, I don't know, if they stare at me. Like, is it illegal for a guy to stare at, I'm assuming a guy, to stare at a woman who's wearing a T-back, whatever? Like, is there any, I don't know of a law where it's illegal for a guy to stare, but I am absolutely sure that there are situations where staring would be, very discouraged, very unwelcome. But I can't think of any law about it. But anyway, so the basic, thing here was frustration. There was sexuality. We're talking about how easily, kind of an unstated premise here, how easy it is to stimulate adult males, or whatever, certain age of males sexually through visual stimulus. But
I have a law for you.
Yeah, well, okay. You're gonna fix everything with this one?
Sexual harassment, because I'm talking about in the workplace.
Okay.
Right. Or certain atmospheres. If you stare, whether, I don't know if no one's wearing a G-string, or no one's wearing that to work. But staring in certain situations laws can come into effect. So that there are some laws.
Yeah. So I think of sexual harassment of mostly being about advances, propositions, that kind of thing.
Not necessarily.
But I agree that what you're talking about would qualify in some cases if again, it's not sexual harassment to say our dress code is that you wear a skirt, but it would be sexual harassment to just stand behind somebody. I don't know what you could imagine, like situations where it would result at least in a sexual harassment complaint, if not an actual award.
Right, that's what I mean, though. I've been in office scenarios before where there's been complaints levied against somebody. I don't know what came about. I guess it wasn't ever really anything major. Usually you have to go much further than just staring at somebody. But yeah, if you make a female, usually is how it works, feel uncomfortable, there's certainly, that's borderline sexual harassment. If she's aware of the fact that you're checking her out, and she notices, and she doesn't want you to check her out, that could be harassment,
Yeah, I don't know. I understand what you're saying. Yes, she could definitely report it. She could feel uncomfortable, and it would be awkward for everybody involved. It really is one of the things that is so rarely talked about in general culture is I guess sex in general, but also, sex in general is talked about, but something like, okay, imagine that you're a middle school student and you're around a bunch of similar age middle school students. You're a guy, middle school student, I guess I should say, and you're around a bunch of other middle school students. Some are female, and there are teachers. If I asked you, there are teachers around you. If I asked you, can you think of some of the most sexy teachers that you ever had? College, I don't know if you went to college, but throughout your entire experience in school, can't you think of somebody who was at least, there were some, you had lots of female teachers, I'm sure, and some of them were like probably not at all what you would call sexy, or your whatever age you were at, they weren't on your radar as sexy. I'm actually like struggling now. I'm thinking, who would I think of as sexy? Um, like I think of this French teacher that I had that wasn't unsexy. It's not that she was sexy. Think of a drama teacher I had, and again, not that she was necessarily sexy, but she was like, she wasn't a total bitch. She wasn't like, oh God. There was a teacher that was known as Thunder Thighs at my high school, and like people who went to my high school at those years would know who. I don't remember the teacher's last name right this second, but my sister would know who. My sister went to the school a few years prior to me, but she would know the teacher known as Thunder Thighs. So, some teachers aren't especially healthy, but I had a girlfriend who was a teacher. And I've known other teachers who I wish were my girlfriends. So there are some that are, quite modest in how they dress, but you still are aware, even if that they're pretty. If I said, can't you acknowledge that you had some teachers that were prettier than others? Yeah. What does pretty mean for a pretty woman? Well, there's not a big gap between pretty, attractive, and sexy. Those aren't that far apart. Yeah, they're different, but for sure, sexy is different, but they're related. So anyway, do you want to comment on anything or make a reference and shout out to your favorite teacher?
Well, yeah, and the funny thing is, I do not remember her name either. But I remember being 14, being a freshman in high school, and I had a science teacher who was very voluptuous. Let's put it that way. And yeah, I remember enjoying her class a lot, But the one day in particular, she was showing me. I want
you to tell me more about enjoying her class a lot. But if you're about to, then continue.
Well, no, just one particular incident. I remember how much it meant to me as a 14-year-old. She was helping me with something. I don't remember what we were doing, but she went to walk away from me because she was done helping me. And I remember something of hers brushed against me.
Oh.
And I remember.
And you were like, you know what? I need some more help. I just remembered. I have a lot of trouble with this. What subject is this? Yeah, I have trouble with this one. I need more help.
But it wasn't her fault. There was a good distance between us, but something needed more distance.
Yeah. Okay.
If you catch my drift. But yeah, so certainly there's women that you just notice just because. I certainly wasn't trying to get in her class or whatever, But yeah, I know what you mean by all that, though.
So how many times did you fail intentionally to get that teacher again?
I was. You know what? I'm not that smart now, and I wasn't that smart back then either. So that would be 0.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about, when I think about classes and I was looking forward to, the women in the class, that was the students. I was aware of students, because I didn't have a sense of any teacher being at all, what do you call it, approachable or whatever for me. So yeah. I don't remember ever actually noticing a teacher in any kind of, significant way other than something like pretty. But let me think. I do remember, this isn't a hot teacher, but or a pretty teacher, but Mrs. Gentry was a science teacher that I had. And I remember that in her class, another student, I took this was probably 6th grade. I know the name of the other person. I'm not currently Facebook friends with them as far as I know, or if I am, they're never on Facebook because I never see their name anymore. But I kind of think that we are Facebook friends, but I just think they never use Facebook. But anyway, so I'm standing like a group of people. We're just talking casually, and I'm staring at my one of the most well-developed in the chest female students of the 6th or 7th grade for the whole school. Anyway, so she's standing there right next to me. I've got a pencil, and I take the eraser end of the pencil, and I just, I just prod her chest Um, and then I'm like, huh. I don't remember the background or the thought process. It wasn't like I wasn't flirting with her. I wasn't teasing her. I wasn't hitting on her. I don't know what was going on. Um, it's actually like a bizarre thing where it seems like more of just like, you know, I maybe I was kind of harassing her or teasing her or something, but I wasn't like it wasn't planned. And I didn't do it ongoingly. I didn't do it to other people, meaning to several people. I do remember one of the neighbor girls, like the girls that lived down the street, a little old, 1 or 2 years older than me. Um, I remember she was pretty attractive, and I remember her having trouble in school because um, she was getting groped, and not once, not twice, but by certain people repeatedly, several people repeatedly, and um, that was an actual kind of a weird thing. So I was aware that, you know, I was aware of that. So that's a kind of a weird thing. And as a side note, I wasn't aware of that in general. She was apparently, targeted as uh, maybe she didn't have a boyfriend at school, or maybe she wasn't developed enough as a, you know, uh, I don't know why it was that I'm aware of her. It's possible that it's because she was the only really hot girl like that lived right by me, or one of the hottest girls. Like as I say, the only hot girl. I think my friend. I could actually say the specific name of somebody. I could say her name too, but anyway, I had a good friend, and his older sister would like do what's it called, aerobics, and yoga or something. She'd have her VHS tape, and she'd get in her leotard and do stretching and stuff. And he and I would play video games, and I probably lost a few. It was like him against I video games. You know what I'm saying? One against the other.
Right.
And I probably
Right.
lost a few video games because of his sister, but I didn't complain. I went back the next day and played video games again. And I don't know if she was aware of me, but you also know that there's a possible, you know attraction for that woman to, or that young lady to do the things, and then see the 12-year-old looking at her and drooling or whatever, and she may actually uh, smile or wink or do it again a week later or whatever. Those aren't really that unusual things to me, and it's not that that's, I don't know what that is for her, but I remember for me, um, I remember like looking at like clothing ads like in the newspaper, like underwear ads for women. There would be underwear ads, and I'd seen all sorts of other stuff. But if I'm flipping through the newspaper or a magazine, but it's normally the newspaper in my case in the early 80s or whatever, late 70s, something like that, early 80s. So I'm flipping through the newspaper and I see the ads for, J.C. Penney or whatever. And if they've got bathing suit or underwear ads, I might have spent more time on those ads than was appropriate given my actual shopping habits. I wasn't really interested in purchasing those items. Is that a shock? I don't know.
That's pretty sick. But I enjoyed reading articles too, and a lot of times in those ads,
Right.
like
I was just reading the articles near the ads.
I was reading the description. A lot of times, remember they'd have like little descriptions sometimes, like right underneath. I wasn't looking at the pictures. I swear, Mom.
Right.
JR.
Right. And that's the other thing, right? So that you bring up the next thing is, does it matter who's around? If my sister's across the table, my dad, my mom, or no one, does that matter as far as what ads I look at and how long? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Probably at some point. Yeah. Right. At some point, no. But then I get responses from other people, and they say, "What are you doing?" Or they say, "Are you looking at the whatever." So there's that whole thing of like the natural. I remember watching Porky's. I snuck downstairs. We had a 2-story house. Snuck downstairs. Would watch HBO, and I'd flip it to ESPN. If I heard footsteps coming down the stairs, I'd flip it to ESPN.
You and me both, buddy.
What?
We had the same picture. You and me both. We had the same situation in my house.
I thought I was the only one who did that. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Where me and my brother had the whole basement though,
Uh-huh.
and my mom and sister were up. They had the upstairs, so they were 2 floors away. So we had ample amount of time by the time somebody would get down there. So yeah, I mean there was a lot of switching going on. I can even recall the days of remember the Playboy channel, but they used to it would be like kind of distorted, but you could still catch them stuff in between.
Right. No, I just really like lacrosse. What's the name of the thing where you take on the ice you have this ball and then you push it with the other thing? Remember that sport?
Oh yeah, that's
Me neither. But anyway.
What's that called?
I don't know, but they would have like reruns of a Division II basketball game that I'd already seen twice, and I'm watching it again. But you know how HBO is; they'll show the same movies a few days later. So if they just happen to line up, that's not my fault. But seriously, like lacrosse or field hockey, I guess, whatever. But I didn't watch a lot of that, but I would never have watched, or rowing or something. I would never have watched. I mean, seriously, rowing? I would never have watched ESPN cover rowing if it wasn't for me flipping from an R-rated movie on HBO really quick, or Cinemax. Remember when Cinemax would have like the free weekend?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's move on. So, anyway, as I was saying, sexuality is very unusual. I don't know why so many people talk about sexual frustrations, because I personally don't experience. Have you ever experienced any sexual feelings, Daniel?
No, I'm asexual. Actually, I have a medical condition.
You have a medical condition? I thought asexual was normal, and the people that are heterosexual are the ones with the problem.
Well, what happened was I was so small as a baby that the doctor actually cut the whole damn thing off. So. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I think at some point I must have experienced some sexual frustration. Yes.
Really? Huh.
Maybe every day of my life. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, judging, whenever I see somebody say "fucking gay people," by which I mean Robert. Do you know who I mean when I say Robert?
No.
Okay. Vernon's son.
Oh, him. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So there was a time when I saw Robert use the phrase "fucking gay," like, I don't know, maybe 3 times in a week, a few weeks in a row, and I was like, he just keeps saying "fucking gay, fucking gay, fucking gay," or "gay fucker," or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, he puts those 2 words together an awful lot, and I'm sure I did too, at various times in my life. But anyway, that didn't mean I didn't have anywhere to go with that. What?
Well, when I'm telling jokes, I certainly could put those 2 words together, but what I consider jokes, maybe not what other people consider jokes, but yeah, but. Are you saying that could be a sign of sexual frustration?
Well, when people say "fuck" a lot, okay, the word "fuck," or "fucking," typically, in a lot of cases that people use that word frequently, they're not talking about sex. So why are they using that word? I think it's a really, kind of notable thing that implies that the repression around sexuality and the repression around, anal retentiveness and poop and feces. That's why shit is a bad word. And if somebody says crap, people don't think they're talking about feces. They don't think you're talking about defecation or using the restroom. You say, oh, I hit my toe. Crap. It's like, oh, I hit my toe. Jesus. Is there repression about religion? I don't know, but I yesterday, I don't remember why, but I remember yesterday I said Jesus, and I don't know why. It's like just I hit myself, like I stubbed my toe or whatever. It's Jesus. And it's just like people will say crap. And I don't, when I stub my toe, I don't say shit. I don't say cock in the mouth. I say Jesus typically. So, I don't know if there's a connection between all those things, but it is interesting though. There's like that repression thing of like, I think more, if somebody's afraid, then they'll say Jesus. Like, Jesus! Like I'm scared. And if I'm scared, I could say fuck. Oh, fuck! Right? But fuck typically is more of an expression of anger or frustration. Why? Maybe because it's related to sex. I don't know. You do the math. What are your comments, fucker?
Right in the pussy.
Ah!
No, did you ever see those clips though?
Kevin Hart? What?
Huh?
Kevin Hart?
I don't know. It's some white guy. It's does those like those are fake like news reports, and he says "fuck her right in the pussy." You ever see those?
Oh, the guy who's doing. Is it a fake news report? I thought those were a real guy. There was a real live news broadcast, and the guy is getting interviewed comes up from behind and says "fuck her right in the pussy," or in the middle of an interview says "fuck her right in the pussy."
I think the first initial one was, but then he kind of like
he did it
like fake a few times after that. You know what I mean?
Huh.
But no, I mean I guess you could relate humor that uses the word fuck to sexual.
You could hypothetically.
Yeah, you could. Is that right every time? Probably not.
Right.
But maybe there's some accurate. There's some. There is a good possibility that a lot of the times it could be that though. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm saying they're not directly related usually. It's not that I'm not mad about sex when I slam the phone and say fuck because I found out that my attorney it raised their rates or whatever, but or is moving away and I got to find a new one, and I just but it's frustration. And if there's repressed frustration about sexuality, then when I'm frustrated about anything else, fuck is what, would be expected for somebody to say. And then there's the time when people just say fuck in a casual conversation. I don't give a fuck what you think. They're not, they're fucking around. They're not frustrated. So that's different. They're actually, kind of, you could say rebelling, but they're just relaxing. They're just fucking letting off steam, right? That's not frustrated fuck. And you fucking doing that again, right? And that yelling, abusive, rage kind of sexual frustration rage guy or girl, and there's potty mouthed women for sure, some of whom are quite angry. But I think the typical thing with women is they're gonna, be passive aggressive. They're gonna say asshole instead of fuck. But why is asshole? I don't know. I don't know if asshole is really. When somebody says asshole, I don't think of that as a sexual reference like fuck. But it's like shit. Well, I mean, it's like when you. Okay, I think I'm just processing through this right now. So when somebody's really scared, like you pick up, I don't know if you ever picked up like a rabbit or something or a frog or something that's really scared, but what do? They shit on you, or they piss on you. That's like a normal response. So I think that the issue is it's so shocking, startling, surprising, and scary that the anal retentiveness lets go and you shit, you pee, your asshole is showing, and because you're I don't know what. Anyway, I don't really know how the hell did the word asshole come to be? Because there's a difference between being a jackass or a donkey, and that whole reference to being stubborn and asshole. Maybe that is where it's from, though. Anal retentiveness combined with a donkey stubbornness. That's what asshole comes from. Go ahead.
I think you just figured the whole thing out in these last couple minutes. That's impressive.
Fucker.
But I do think in the gay community they kind of use asshole the same as the word fuck almost. You know what I mean?
I don't know what you. I mean, I know what you mean, but I don't have a lot of token gay friends like you.
Oh, they're not token, buddy. No,
oh, okay.
Maybe that's why I'm so repressed. I think I'm actually gay, and nobody knows it.
My one friend that you know of that had his lifestyle experiment with going gay. I knew him long before he was actively gay, and he isn't anymore. And it wasn't even all that long that went on, a few months, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. There's been a lot of people that I thought, is that person gay? I'm not sure. Guys, I mean, but mostly guys. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. Were you being serious though? Do you think that people in the gay community use the word asshole in a sexual reference? You were joking, right?
That was a bad joke. Yes.
That was a joke.
Yes.
Okay. But certainly different cultures. Your subcultures, your soldiers, your Marines, your Navy, your soldiers. Yeah, your potty mouth soldiers.
Your seamen.
Seamen, right. When the semen are kind of just flowing right down the, spilling out of the,
Strait of Gibraltar.
They're just spilling right off of the boat. What? The Strait of Gibraltar?
Anyway, go ahead.
No, they're just. Never mind. They're disembarking from the naval vessel. What?
They're going through the Panama Canal,
No. When they're going on shore, right? They're debarking onto the shore, or embarking, or whatever. They're barking onto the shore so they can go. What's that called? Get their kicks. Anyway, so yeah, one of the groups of people that have like this famous, sexual repression / sexual explosion is sailors. They're out at sea for 6 weeks or 3 months or whatever. They come into port for a week, and boy, they fuck a lot of pussy. And anyway, so frustration. Frustration is an interesting thing to be aware of. I've conducted some scientific tests indicating that 109% of frustrations are corresponding to homosexuality that's been repressed in the individual. So.
Well, that's pretty significant number, 109%. That almost sounds made up. I don't know. Sure it wasn't like 69% or something a little lower?
69? Is there any reason you picked that number?
Because that's what I thought I heard a while back. That's the only reason,
Okay.
But certainly I do see where you're coming from in that much frustration for men, probably for women. I don't know. I can't speak to that because I've never been one. But I can imagine that a lot of it is sexual tension. That would make sense. I don't know if 109% is the right number, 69%. But yeah, I'm sure it's a higher number for sure.
I dressed as a woman, and I was really concerned. I had long hair at the time, and I was really concerned about sexual harassment from heterosexual men. Anyway, so I think that the whole sidetrack of sexuality is actually completely incidental. No, really. I mean, I think it's intriguing, like, for about an hour or whatever, and that's about it. but the repressed desires, to me, the background thing that's like the real concern is financial well-being and just well-being in general, happiness in general. That's what's repressed. Emotional clarity, like peace of mind, that's what's bombarded and repressed, and all that stuff. And the whole thing about the vaccinations and everything, that was in regard to finances. But with like, why was my wife, why are people anxious about health? Why are people anxious about what will people think if I say that I'm skeptical about the safety of vaccines? Like, there's this huge fucking cloud of social anxiety that is normal for virtually everyone, right? That's what you get from age 2 to age whatever is
Right. Yeah.
new layers of fucking social anxiety. That's what you get.
Right. Well, and that let's face it, that is normal, and it might even be healthy, and that goes along with, as we build relationships in our life, we're building social acceptance. Actually, like social acceptance has something to do with all of our relationship, or just social conformity, right? I mean, so I think what people fear is losing that level of social validation that they've gained. You know what I mean? People around them trust that, right? Don't you think that's part of the fear?
Say it again.
Well, part of the fear is because you build all these social connections, and a lot of times they can be affected if we try to invalidate somebody else's beliefs. If we say something that goes against other else's beliefs,
I don't want to risk my social connection with, like, so there's the concern about risking the a specific social connection.
Right. I think that's what a lot of people fear when they are skeptical about something. I don't know. What do you think the fear is based on?
I think it's more of a concern about the herd actually getting singled out, targeted as an outcast or a heretic or whatever, and getting, shamed by the group. And when somebody gets shamed by the group, it's implicitly gives permission for anyone in the main group to now abuse the outcast. Or at least that's my playground, elementary school orientation or experience, is that you don't want the group ganging up on you. One person ganging up on you, or one person taking their ball and going home, yeah, well, that's bad, but that's not dangerous. There's a real, like, reptile brain value to not having the herd, attack you. And it's not just that the herd pushes you out, it's that they attack you, And I don't know if I mean, haven't you ever seen that where kids will just, pick on, yell at a kid, or call names at a kid? Like, that's not that unusual to me. And that isn't a physical attack, but that if in a school setting where a kid is going to school day after day, week after week, year after year, and they're bombarded with insults, eventually somebody's going to physically attack them. Probably. Like, at least amongst boys where I grew up, that would be normal. So if you're frequently, what's that called? Denigrated by several people, and you don't defend yourself, no one defends you, you don't escape from it, you don't fight back, which is another thing. Like, if it's very bad to hit somebody, then I'm not going to hit them. If I'm afraid of getting hit, then I'm not going to hit somebody because they just called me a, whatever, I don't know, a piece of shit or something. But in an elementary school, piece of shit isn't a typical, put down or whatever. But as time goes on, people will be exposed to derogatory statements, and there is a kind of a, there's the people who are most likely to be the I don't know about bullies, but we'll go with that word. So there are people who are most likely to do the bullying, and then there are people who are most likely to be the bullied, the ones bullied. And if you take those same people and move them to a different school or move them to the Cub Scouts instead of the school setting, now we're at church, or now we're at Cub Scouts, or now we're at baseball practice. It's more or less the same people who do the bullying and get bullied on the whole. And
Right.
so
The
yeah.
bullies tend to be ones that probably didn't get a lot of attention from their parents.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really even processing the whole end of why are the bullies how they are. I think that at some point we just see that bullying is a really normal response. Okay, I guess it depends on what you mean by what we mean by bullying. So the idea of harassing somebody becomes really normal at some point. So if somebody has, okay, fourth grade, new kid shows up to school. The second day they're at the school, they're wearing a Barney t-shirt. Maybe Barney was cool wherever they came from, but fourth grade, you don't wear a fucking Barney t-shirt to the fourth grade. Where I went, where I'm from, there wasn't even Barney when I was in fourth grade, but you know what I mean. So Barney is too young for a fourth grader to get away with. They would be teased for wearing that shirt. They would be harassed. It doesn't mean they would be, had spitballs thrown at them or, get punched or anything like that. But things like, your accent, your physical appearance, your skin, your hair, your what do you call it? Like somebody who's disabled, like of course somebody who's disabled might get picked on. Or somebody who's, well, of course some people get picked on for whatever reasons, right?
Right.
So that's more the interesting, thing is that some people are predisposed to get picked on, and then if you got somebody who wears the Barney t-shirt to fourth grade and they know how to actually socially handle themselves, they won't get picked on twice. They won't get harassed twice. There are people who can actually, I don't know if they can, wear a Barney t-shirt week after week, but they can do certain things, and the way that they respond to harassment will stop the harassment or discourage harassment. Like there are people who handle it smoothly. Huh?
I'm sorry, I was just going to say your message is heard loud and clear, but I do have to get going here.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
But I know where you're going. I get exactly what you're saying there. So just so you know that.
Cool, yeah. Okay.
All right. I got to get busy here.
Okay, take off that Barney shirt, okay? This is a professional establishment.
Well, you know what? I'm just so used to getting picked on all these years. I'm just going to keep going with it.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, shoot. You can get away with it now. You're the authority. So, anyway. Okay. Well, thanks for talking. We'll talk later.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.